Hey guys, well, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show. We give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is Mark Ellis.
Welcome one and all to the best movie news show in the entire galaxy. My name is Mark, and live from our studios here on Canto Bite, we're so excited for this episode of Movie Talk. You see the rundown right there. What you may not see is a couple little nuggets we have added for you. Trailer Park. It's in full effect and by herself. So we got the Ocean's 8 trailer, which you see. They're also going to have a Soldado trailer we'll talk about, and the brand new Nutcracker and the Four Realms trailer. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Who's joining us, Ash?
Also here is Jon Schnepp.
Man, I'm so excited to talk about all these other movies. We're not going to talk about Star Wars today. This is amazing.
Well,
I can't believe, right?
We're going to talk about Star Wars today.
Well,
Also here, Perri Nemiroff.
I think you really tricked folks who were looking at that sidebar there. They never would have guessed.
That's right, kids. The sidebar actually says Star Wars Episode 9. What? That proves that I know my Roman numerals. Thanks, Super Bowl. And that we're also going to talk about the new Star Wars movie that we have not seen yet that comes out 2 years from probably today.
Just as Star Wars The Last Jedi was gearing up to debut in theaters, working on Episode 9 started its journey into pre-production. Via a report from Making Star Wars during the press conference for the recent Disney-Fox merger, Disney CEO Bob Iger revealed that J.J. Abrams would be pitching his Star Wars to the studio on December 15th, the day The Last Jedi hit theaters. Fantha Tracks also revealed that Abrams' film would be made with the working title Black Diamond. The working title for Force Awakens was Avco and Space Bear for Last Jedi. Star Wars Episode 9 is scheduled to hit theaters on December 20th, 2019. Mark, what do you make of J.J. Abrams pitching his Episode 9 just as The Last Jedi hit theaters?
It's curious timing for me. I'm not sure if this is actually planned out by Lucasfilm like way ahead of time that, hey, the movie's coming out, and so we all want to get our minds off that. We know the box office is going to do just fine, so let's focus our energy on the next movie. Schnepp, as a director, somebody who works in the film industry and has done so for a long time, The Last Jedi comes out, and I'm sure the Thursday night previews, Lucasfilm was already monitoring the reaction, both what they got from critics from screenings earlier in the week, and then with fans coming out of the movies on Friday or Thursday night. What do you make of J.J. Abrams pitching his idea? Is this late? Is this early? Is this right on schedule with what you would assume Star Wars would do?
it feels like it's right on schedule. I mean, we knew he was taking over from Colin for over a month now since that news came out, and I'm sure once he took on the job, he started thinking. He probably saw a cut of Last Jedi and started thinking and formulating what was he going to do. Now that the series is coming back to him, he said he's on the record saying, "I never intended to continue. I did the first one, and then I was one and done." And now the chance to close out these characters that he basically kind of created, it's kind of a too big of a chance to come back to. I'm really happy to hear that he came up and formulated his story before critical and audience reactions came out. I think that's really important to not be affected by what a million other fans and critics have to say about Rian Johnson's film. It's more so like, what did he think about what Rian Johnson did with The Force Awakens and the sequel to that, and then what is he going to do now? Now with those two movies in the can.
Yeah, Perri, it raises the question to me as far as connectivity between the filmmakers, between JJ into Rian Johnson and Rian Johnson back into JJ's movie, because I know that there was a lot of fans that had issues with where The Force Awakens left us, and if those questions that the movie may have asked were answered by The Last Jedi or how they were answered. Some fans took issue with that. So do you think that Rian Johnson made his movie and that J.J. Abrams was intricately involved, not necessarily from an active storytelling standpoint, but at least being a fly on the wall and being clearly aware of where Rian Johnson's movie was going? Or do you think that J.J., because he came, as Schnepp pointed out, later to the game, that he was added as a director after Colin Trevorrow departed, that we're still trying to play catch up a little bit with everything that Rian Johnson gave us in The Last Jedi?
Yeah, I do look at this as playing catch up a little, but I also look at this as a position they're in no matter what, because obviously we had the director change, and also there was Carrie Fisher's passing, so there was really no doubt that I think this is a late point to be pitching a story like this, especially when you're thinking about the Disney-Fox merger, how big of a franchise this is for Disney. You would have thought that it might have been all laid out beforehand, and it seems to have been, but then these matters just make them have to change course a little. So given those factors, it seems to me like they're doing what they should be doing right now. But I think if you're comparing it to, you know, the average film process and what it might have been like for the past 2 installments, this might be a little later in the game.
I think that's a great point you raised, is that not only did you have to deal with the director changing hands from episode 9, Trevorrow, into J.J. Abrams, you also had the very tragic death of Carrie Fisher, where you have to try to maneuver that somehow into a story when Lucasfilm has already announced that they did not want to use a different actress to play her in episode 9, and they also did not want to use any sort of like the Tarkin thing that they did in Rogue One. So if you're not going to use performance capture and you're not going to use a new actress, where does that take our story from here? So I think that this gave J.J. Abrams time to see the movie multiple times, digest it, probably have conversations, hopefully with Rian Johnson, as to what were you thinking here, where do you think we can go from here, and then let JJ go off and do his own story. But this also is early enough in the game where I think that Lucasfilm is not going to look at the fan reaction and totally change the story in episode 9, but I do think that it does allow them the freedom to do a little bit of course correction and say, well, we did this here and fans didn't respond to it, so maybe we need to do that. Schnepp, do you see any of that happening in episode 9, or do you just see that the same thing that J.J. Abrams pitched, that's where we're going, and we're not going to worry about how the fans felt about The Last Jedi?
I don't think we're going to worry about how fans felt about Last Jedi. Disney doesn't do course correction as far as they do audience testing. They do the old school way of doing stuff, but they're not very reactionary and like, oh my God, people said this, quickly reshoot everything, reshuffle everything. They don't do that. So I feel like, and neither does JJ. I think he's got a firm grasp on storytelling. I think he really delivered with Force Awakens. So to me, I'm very excited to see what he's going to do, you know, in this final act. I mean, you know, no spoilers. I can't really talk about it without talking about spoilers. So some people, the 5 people who are watching this who haven't seen Last Jedi, please see it so that we can fully talk about this.
It's a very hard thing to monitor who's seen The Last Jedi. As
All
I'll
say is I would like to see him kind of go Return of the Jedi as far as like, you know, the way, you know, Star Wars, then Empire Strikes Back, and then you had Return of the Jedi. I don't need another Death Star. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is I would like to see, you know, some time passage.
Yeah, I mean, Perri, I think a lot of people going into this are assuming that there is going to be some passage of time, unlike what we got with The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and, you know, rightfully so. There was no time passage. Here, do you think we're going to get some years, a decade, an entirely new generation? What's going to happen?
I'm definitely betting on a time gap between episode 8 and 9 because really, I mean, maybe this is why I'm not a screenwriter, but I can't come up with a way to send the Leia character off in a proper, meaningful way without having that gap of off-screen time to play with. That really does seem like the only effective, appropriate, honorable way to do it. So I think that's why I'm leaning towards the time passage thing. But to go back to the course-correcting idea really briefly, so I don't think they're sitting there looking at, you know, comment sections or anything like that and saying, oh, they didn't like this, so we need to change that. But J.J. Abrams has said in his quotes about coming back to direct another one, I learned from episode 7. So whether that learning comes from his experience writing the script, being on set, how he felt about the movie after, how people have taken it a couple years later, I think that's going to influence what we get in episode 9. So it's not a full course correct like we've come to know that term, but I do think they take everything into account just to varying degrees.
Yeah, this feels a little late in the game to me. When I heard about it, and Ashley, I want to get your take on it too, it feels like J.J. Abrams, I'm sure that he was aware of where Rian Johnson's movie, Episode 8, was going to go, where it was going to leave us off. But the fact that you're having this pitch meeting on Friday that the movie comes out, so now you have about 2 years to get everything revved up. And I know that it's Lucasfilm, and the way that it's been described by multiple filmmakers who work with them is that it's a giant campfire. And a lot of people are telling this story, and then it ultimately falls in the hands of one director, but a lot of people have input. The way that that operates, don't you think that we would have had more of an outline of episode 9 ready to go at this point?
Yeah, I think that the date of the pitch obviously is really interesting, but I really want to know how they come up with these working titles. Like, is there how do they come up with these? Do you guys know? Is this like a thing? I don't.
Space Bear was great. Space Bear is like that's a great one, and I don't know if that was some reference to like, oh, we're gonna have these really cute porgs in the movie or not. But Black Diamond, that's very interesting, and it means absolutely nothing. Blue Harvest was famously the working title of Return of the Jedi, and the whole reason why that was the working titles, because by that time in 1982 when they were shooting it, so many people were Star Wars fanatics that if you said that this is the new Star Wars movie, or you had Jedi in the title, whether it was Revenge of the Jedi then or Return of the Jedi, there's going to be people lined up. There's going to be, everybody wants to know what you're shooting. If you're shooting some movie called Blue Harvest, none of the locals really care about that. So Black Diamond, now we know. If you see a Black Diamond sign, it might not be for skiing. It might be for a really cool movie that's being made currently. We're going to move on to something that is, sorry, Schnepp, not Star Wars related, but it is going to be Paramount Pictures has some upcoming movies, including Yo-Jo, G.I. Joe. Are they back? Are they being rebooted?
Yes.
What the hell's going on?
Yesterday, Paramount Pictures officially announced plans for a third G.I. Joe movie and dated it to be released on March 27, 2020. Titled simply G.I. Joe, the plan for the movie is unknown at this time, as is casting and who will be taking on directing duties. Paramount also dated a feature adaptation of the late 70s Mego/Takara toy line Micronauts for October 16, 2020, with J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot behind the production. The studio also set a new Dungeons & Dragons movie for July 23, 2021, as well as an untitled Hasbro film for October 1st, 2021. Perri, thoughts on a third G.I. Joe movie as well as Micronauts and Dungeons & Dragons?
I mean, this was bound to happen. We know they struck that deal and they were going to ramp things up with the Hasbro Paramount connection there, but I mean, this is so many years ahead and there's so few projects I really care about. I think the only way to get me into that G.I. Joe property at this point is if they actually did what was rumored or what might have been part of an original pitch, which is mashing them up with the Transformers. Because that at least, it sounds ridiculous and crazy, but that at least sounds like something exciting and so insanely different. So maybe if that's the route they go, I'll be on board for that one. The only one I really do genuinely have my eye on is the Dungeons & Dragons movie. I really want to see that, and I think just the storytelling ability with that, and just like how big you can go and how important that game is to so many people out there, that's something that I'm very interested to explore. But you know, we're talking about 2021, so I'm looking at this list, and as much as I want to get hyped about any single one, we're still just in, as far as I know, that writer's room stage. Who knows what's going to happen? And this is what happens when you have these cinematic universes that maybe down the line could be interconnected. The first one in this batch could come out. It might not be that great. And then all of a sudden, the ones later on that I've gotten excited about are changed, removed, anything at all. So really, the only one that I'm actually looking at right now, because I don't think it's going to come off the calendar no matter what, it might shift for all I know, but is Dungeons & Dragons. I think it's too important of a property for them to do anything with that besides try to forge forward.
Yeah, it's interesting, Schnepp, because I think that a lot of studios see that the 2020, 2021, that summertime, that entire year right now, as being somewhat open territory. And it's funny to say because, of course, it is. It's 4 years in the future, but it's also going to be after this current trilogy of Star Wars episodic movies is done with their run, so we don't know when a new episode flick would come out, if it will come out. We also know that the MCU, the way it's currently set up, we're not going to have any more Infinity Wars. That's all going to be solved by the time this happens. So now you have a studio like Paramount saying, well, what properties can we launch in the summertime that's going to be like a big tentpole kind of movie? Dungeons & Dragons has that potential. It certainly didn't live up to it 17 years ago when that movie came out and failed to make its budget back. G.I. Joe is interesting to me too. I disagree with Perri wholeheartedly. I don't think it's crazy at all if the G.I. Joe team up with the Transformers, because the Transformers already have a military presence. Why do you think they keep inviting Josh Duhamel back because he's in the military. He's in the army and he's helping out the Transformers, the good ones. He's helping out the Autobots. So why wouldn't you have The Rock and bring back Channing Tatum's character? I don't care if he died. Bring him back. Put him in a new G.I. Joe Transformers mashup. I'd love to see that. I know the one you want to talk about is Micronauts. It was like a combination of Legos and Transformers. I barely remember when I was a kid. That was more in my Lincoln Logs phase.
Oh, right.
So tell us about Micronauts and why it needs to be a movie.
Well, Micronauts needs to be a movie for a number of reasons. It was an amazing bunch of toys that came out right around when Star Wars came out. So I was the perfect age, 9, 10, 11. I had a ton of Micronauts. I had Biotron. I had the Time Traveler. These weird kind of clear characters who, like, you could interlink the robots, very kind of transformery in a certain sense. But what killed it for me was the comic book adaptation that they did. It was like right after Star Wars, so there was like this entire series. It's so awesome. The artwork by Michael Golden was fantastic. It literally, yeah, it aped a lot of Star Wars stuff, but also went far beyond Star Wars. They had like body banks. They had ideas that are actually real now where people are like using limbs to replace limbs, like bizarre cloning and harvesting of organs. Really weird, kind of creepy stuff.
You can harvest organs in Micronauts?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Well, now I'm interested in that one.
Baron Karza was the bad guy. It had so many cool elements to it. So for me as a kid, I loved the idea of like this Micronauts world. And then when they came to Earth, they were like actually little tiny people like Ant-Man. So it was like you had all these kinds of elements to it. So for me, I've always wanted to see a Micronauts something get adapted. For years, it's gone through so many different, like I've had friends do development for animated series for Micronauts that I've seen all the artwork. I was like, this would be amazing. Didn't happen. So I'm looking forward to it. It's 2020. It's dated 2020. That's 2.5 years from now. I mean, 2017's it's a wrap. We're over. So we're moving into 2018, 19, 20. Bam. I mean, I know that, you know, Disney's going to announce some gigantic movies. I mean, they just haven't announced it yet, but in 2020, there's massive stuff happening. So it's not like it's an open summer, but I think Micronauts is the one to look for.
Yeah, and you want to get that date on the books as early as possible. We know King Kong versus Godzilla is coming out in 2020. Ashley, I hesitate to ask you this.
Yep.
Which of these, you're at a movie theater, right? And you got your movie pass. You renewed it for this year, 2020 and 2021. You see a Micronauts flick playing. You see G.I. Joe. I'm going to give you G.I. Joe plus Transformers. I'm going to give you that movie.
Okay.
Or you can go see the reboot of Dungeons & Dragons, the most beloved fantasy game of all time.
Well, Micronauts is out because I don't even know what a Micronaut is, and
I guess Schnepp didn't sell you on stem cell research.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of Saw when you said the implantation of organs. So it
Nothing like
kind
Saw.
of drew me in a little bit.
Just skip it.
But
It's
I
really
want
like
to
Saw.
know what this untitled Hasbro movie is. Is this Mr. Potato Head?
Ooh, it could be
Is
Mr.
it?
Potato Head. He loses his ear, and it's like a whole detective murder kind of mystery.
Oh, you know what it's going to be? It's going to either be Mask or Rom. That's
Dude.
what the Untitled, and either one of those I want to see. I know James Gunn wants to see a Rom movie, so that would be fantastic.
Perry, which of these flicks would you go to see? And we'll throw in a Mask movie, too, because that might get my money.
I'm sticking with what I said before, and I'm going with Dungeons and Dragons. I think that they have put too much time and effort, especially considering at one point Warner Brothers was developing a competing project. They want to make that movie. They want to make it. They're going to make it. I just hope they make it well.
I love following you guys in the chat room right now, and people are buzzing about which one they would rather see. And I'm also following Schmoville on the Facebook page. Andrew Walker said that he's cool with G.I. Joe. Dungeons & Dragons is the one. There's still a huge fan base for Dungeons & Dragons. Part of the reason why Dungeons & Dragons they just aim for the moon, I think, because you see what Lord of the Rings was able to do. And now any fantasy franchise, whether it's D&D or Warcraft or hopefully one day Magic the Gathering, for me, I think that they might try to set the bar too high because they want to create not just one movie, but this gigantic trilogy that's one of the greatest of all time. It's hard to meet that. You think Dungeons & Dragons has a shot, Perry?
I think what you just described is a definite possibility, which is why it goes back to why I'm nervous about all these projects. It's because it is a cart before the horse scenario yet again, where you date all these things before releasing any other concrete information. Because we're also talking about these movies when we don't know who's attached to these things, and that could completely change my opinion on this entire lineup here.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to a movie that is coming in theaters sooner than 2021. It actually is opening this week.
It's Pitch Perfect 3. After the highs of winning the World Championships, the Bellas find themselves split apart and discovering there aren't job prospects for making music with your mouth. But when they get the chance to reunite for an overseas USO tour, this group of awesome nerds will come together to make some music and some questionable decisions one last time.
Okay, I had the chance to see Pitch Perfect 3 yesterday. Perry, I know you've seen it as well. I believe the review embargo is now up. It is lifted. We are free to talk about this movie. If you're a fan of Pitch Perfect, I can send you to the theater to go see this thing. I enjoyed it. I laughed. I liked it better than Pitch Perfect 2. I thought the bells were great. I thought some of the new additions were fun. It's not a great movie, and it's got a couple ridiculous subplots. However, John Michael Higgins and Elizabeth Banks, if you need something to put it over the edge in this movie, they just, every time they're on screen, they make me laugh. I want to see a standalone spin-off movie with just them two. That's what I need.
That is the last thing in the world I would ever want to see. I think I might be in the minority with that. Pitch Perfect fans seem to really like the two of them together. For some reason, that joke is just not funny and so overused to me. But Pitch Perfect, I will say the same thing that I said in my review, and it's kind of repeating what you just said. I think that if you are a fan of these Pitch Perfect movies, and especially if you did enjoy 2, you're gonna have some fun with 3. If you don't like the Pitch Perfect movies, don't go see this movie, though. Don't do that to yourself. I'm a little disappointed they didn't veer more towards the direction of the first one, but I do like the fact that at least they embraced how zany it got, because I think that wound up working in its favor and making it a little funnier than it should have been.
Yeah, and it seemed that they have more control over the reins. I mean, they knew that it was going to get this, you know, we're going overseas, we're doing a USO tour, some really weird things ensue that could have gone off the rails, and they didn't, because even if things got stupid, and occasionally they do, you're laughing, you're enjoying watching them together on screen for possibly the last time. I know it's going to make you emotional, Schnepp. The Bells, one last trip.
Oh my God! What's up, pitches? Yeah, I won't be seeing this movie. I'm going to reread my ROM collection. See you later.
Okay, well, you can sell Ash on Micronauts. Perri and I do a good job of selling
on Pitch Perfect. You guys are the only one that's really buying it at this table. I love the Pitch Perfect franchise. I love the second one. I saw it alone. I literally saw it alone, and this was me in my seat. I was so into it.
I believe
but
that.
this weekend, what am I going to go see? Is it going to be Jumanji or Pitch Perfect? Because I want to see both of them.
I really want to see Jumanji too. And Harloff and I have a thing where, like, if the movie theater where the Jumanji, because there was a Jumanji screening last night too, and that was at the movie theater right next to his house, so he wins that every time. And I went to the one that's further away, which happened to be Pitch Perfect 3. I would have rather seen Jumanji 2, but I haven't heard from him how Jumanji 2 is. But Pitch Perfect 3, it's setting the bar kind of.
It's actually a fun weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, neither of them are fantastic, but they are both a lot of fun. And as a fan of the original Jumanji, I'm surprised I liked that one as much as I did.
Yeah, I just hope that fans feel that Pitch Perfect 3 took the lore that Pitch Perfect 2 set and expanded upon it and gave us more mythology, and then we can argue about that movie online all weekend. All right, let's move on to buy or sell. We have a whole lot to get to, including things that are not in the sidebar, so let's kick off with... I don't know, maybe a DC Matthew Vaughn story?
In a recent podcast from IGN UK, director Matthew Vaughn confirmed he's had talks with DC and is interested in helping out the studio after the not-so-stellar performance of Justice League, and cast more speculation as to what is happening behind closed doors over at DC. Speaking about his ideas, Vaughn said, "I do love the world of DC, and I've been talking to them at the moment about a few things. It's more fun getting involved with franchises when they're on the down, because then it's easier to make a good film. So if I got involved with a few of the superhero films out there that have been disappointing, it's going to be, if I do okay, it'll probably be better." Schnepp, do you buy or sell Matthew Vaughn being able to help DC by directing one of their movies?
It's a really weird approach. I mean, everything he said was really weird. It's like you know, if I took Batman, I'd do the Adam West jokey Batman. I don't know. Like, I originally thought Matthew Vaughn would be a great pick, and then after I saw Kingsman 2, I just really didn't like Kingsman 2. I thought it misfired on so many levels. It was just kind of certain parts of it were just gross, way off the mark, and you know, we won't get into Kingsman 2. How about that? Let's just say I had higher hopes before that came out about him taking over Superman, but I don't want a goofy, jokey Superman. I don't need that coming out from anybody, especially Matthew Vaughn. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I know he had a pitch with Mark Miller earlier, so you know, look, and I think Mark Miller's a fantastic writer, and you know, he's done Kick-Ass with them, so they've worked together. So, you know, I don't know. I would like to see what his take is going to be on Superman. But I'm not going to be privy to that. So hopefully DC or whoever's in charge after they fired all the people who were in charge of Justice League, now that whoever's going to be in charge now is, you know, opening up the doors to different directors and writers. So to hear that Matthew Vaughn is talking about a couple of different DC properties, I'm pretty sure, because he's been linked to Superman, that's the one he's going to be doing.
I do appreciate the quote, if for no other reason than it's refreshing honesty, saying like, look, these movies have been disappointing, and I think that I can make one of them better, and if not, well, hey, I gave it a shot. He went on to say that X-Men 3, when he took over for The Last Stand, that was not a great movie, that was pretty disappointing, and so when he had First Class, he had more of a blank canvas to play with, because what are you going to do, make a movie worse than The Last Stand? No, and First Class ended up being a pretty sweet movie, and it gave us this new run of X-Men flicks that people seem to have enjoyed for the most part. The Apocalypse. So if you have Matthew Vaughn, Perry, and you have the DC universe, where do you think he's got his eyes set?
I think he's made it abundantly clear, or maybe people speaking for him, that he has his eyes and his heart set on Man of Steel, because this isn't a new thing. There was also that information that they actually did pitch something even before we got Man of Steel, and I liked that idea. I mean, the sentence in that quote that really gets me is, "You should walk out of Superman just feeling like $1 million," and that's the Superman movie I want. I mean, really, that is a kind of movie that I always love. For some reason, the first thing that's coming to mind with that kind of feeling is Eddie the Eagle. I'll never forget how I felt like I was just walking on air after I got out of that movie. I felt so good and excited, like I could achieve anything, and I want that kind of positivity walking out of a Superman movie. But when it comes to buying or selling Matthew Vaughn potentially taking on a DC movie, I buy it. When it comes to maybe buying or selling him directing Man of Steel 2, I'm going to sell it just because I don't think there is a high likelihood of that happening anytime in the near future, especially when they just announced that lineup, which was the same lineup they announced at San Diego Comic-Con at that other convention that happened recently, and it's not on the list.
Yeah, but let me just say, that slate that they announced, it could disappear tomorrow.
It could.
I mean, I don't trust anything that DC Warner Brothers is putting out as far as, it's nah. Hang on. Until someone is actually writing and directing it, it's in production, none of that stuff on that list is real. So I think tomorrow they could be like, Matthew Vaughn's doing Superman. It's dated. They're putting a date. They got a writer on it. Bam. Then I'm going to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, if you just step back and you look at the landscape of DC movies on the whole, so you obviously naturally think about Superman. However, Man of Steel 2, as you guys point out, wasn't even mentioned in the slate that they had currently. So would he work on a Superman movie? The Batman take is interesting. I don't necessarily want to see it go in that direction either, because as much as I love Adam West and think he might be the best Batman of them all, it does give me fear that we get another Batman and Robin versus the 1966 Batman. How about something that's a lesser-known property in the DC world that we've heard rumblings of them making a movie, whether it's Booster Gold or Lobo or something like that? Now, if Matthew Vaughn wants to take over and do something in the DC world, I would be all for it, Ashley. My question to you, and I'm going to give you a quote that he also said, is that he has to figure out what he's doing next, that he wants to flex a muscle he hasn't used in a while, and he's made quite a few superhero movies. So do you think that he's going to do a superhero movie next, or do you think he's going to try to go do something else that's more original?
Well, I just think that this quote is so awkward. It's almost like tiptoeing to the point of like, he might know something that we don't know. It's like, it's on the down, but it's good when it's on the down. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? So I almost feel like he knows something that we don't know. So maybe he knows.
Can you rap this quote?
It is something, but I don't want to talk about it. It's just so awkward.
And it's, I mean, not as awkward as that rap. It's still awkward, and I would have done a lot worse of a job. He's talking about what it seems like this quote is talking about. We may be reading way too much into this quote, is that he's talking about breathing fresh life into a franchise that we already know. So this kind of dissuades me from thinking it would be a new franchise, or it would be even like The Flash, where they're still trying to lock down which director. They have their eye on Zemeckis and a couple other people for that. But Matthew Vaughn is good at bringing a sense of humor to his movies, and he also clearly flourishes in the comic book realm. So I think his next movie is going to be something a little more off the beaten path, but he might come back in that famous year, 2020, 2021, with something that is more comic booky. You want to see him do Superman as well? Or
I'm on the fence.
Okay. Perri?
Yeah.
If he did pick up a DC property, I think I would be rooting for that one.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to Trailer Park, everybody. It's the first of 3 trailers. That's the only one on the rundown. Ocean's 8 is officially here. Tell us about it, Ash.
I promise I won't rap about it. Warner Brothers has released the first Ocean's 8 trailer for the upcoming spinoff from Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's trilogy. Hunger Games filmmaker Gary Ross directs the new film, which stars Sandra Bullock as Debbie Ocean, the sister of George Clooney's Danny Ocean. When the film begins, she's fresh out of prison and assembles a team of her own to pull off a unique heist at the Met Gala. Ocean's 8 opens in theaters on June 8, 2018. Mark Barsall, the first trailer for Ocean's 8.
It's a buy for me. I'm excited to see this movie now. I like the premise. I like that it's connected somewhat to the Ocean's 11 franchise, is that she's related to George Clooney's character. Debbie is the sister of Danny. but it's their own movie, and I think that was really well established. There's a quick line that James Corden has when he's talking to her at the end that seems to give some sort of, hey, is everybody in your family like this kind of thing? But this is going to be their movie, and I like what this heist is about. Anne Hathaway seems like a fun target, so I think there's going to be a lot of comedy to mine from this movie. And I like that it does mirror Ocean's 11, that she's up for parole as well, like Danny was in the first movie. But from there, I think we'll go in a very different path, because he seemed to be recruiting people who weren't necessarily desperate. A couple of them might have been down on their luck, but a lot of the people in Ocean's 11 just seemed like they were just up for a heist. They're up for a great weekend, and if we happen to make a lot of money, let's do it. The people that Debbie's recruiting, the ladies in her arsenal, they've fallen on some hard times, and they're ready for a different life. So there's going to be a little bit more desperation. I think it's going to lead to more comedy. How do you feel, Perri?
I liked that element of it, because instantly by presenting the recruitment process, I knew a little bit about almost every single character in this movie, and I thought that was a really effective thing to include in a trailer. I didn't realize how excited I was until that email got to my inbox that said the new Ocean's 8 trailer was, and it was a really weird feeling to all of a sudden in that second process, holy crap, I can't wait to press play and watch this. And it didn't disappoint me. I'm not going to say my mind was blown or anything, but I do really like the style, and more so than anything, I like this ensemble a lot. I genuinely want to watch them do whatever they do in this movie, and I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of great ties, both when it comes to visual style and even the score in this trailer a little. Something about it brought me back into that franchise, but in a way that didn't feel so heavy-handed that, I'm kind of rolling my eyes at the reference, thinking, oh, they're just trying to make some money off of a previously popular franchise by having a lady version. No, this trailer really does stand on its own, and it's almost like an extra perk that she happens to be Danny Ocean's sister. So, huge buy for me.
Yeah, you're going to have an inevitable comparison, Ash, to the Ghostbusters trailer when that came out, because that was rebooting something, but the trailer didn't really let us know it was rebooting. It kind of made us feel like it was all in one universe. So I can understand the audience confusion there. I ended up liking Ghostbusters just fine. How do you think you're going to feel about this based on the trailer?
Yeah, when I first heard the premise, I honestly wasn't so into it. I was like, how are they going to make all these celebrities work together in one movie? They're all kind of stars working together, and I think that that's a weird combination, especially because their humor just seems so different. But this is the epitome of having kind of low expectations and then seeing a trailer and be like, oh wow, that really worked. So I thought the trailer was funny. It made me laugh, and it was better than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, when you see Sandra Bullock in comedies, I think what she did in The Heat, Schnepp, is so perfect for the kind of role she's going to have here, where she was funny on her own, but she also acted as a great grounding anchor for somebody like Melissa McCarthy, who can just be so wild and crazy that you need something that you can relate to, because that heightens what Melissa McCarthy's doing. I think it's going to have the same effect here.
Definitely. I was just thinking about The Heat. I love that movie. It's so much fun, and you're absolutely right with Sandra Bullock. I mean, seeing her with Anne Hathaway, Cate Blanchett, like seeing them all in a room together, kind of interacting with each other. I was not that excited about this film either. Then that trailer just was like, wow, I'm definitely going to see this film, because it looks like all of the ladies are having a lot of fun. It looks like a cool adventure. I absolutely loved seeing the recruitment process, seeing from criminals to like a bored housewife who's like, literally, what else are you going to do with the rest of your life? I'm in. You know what I mean? It feels like... Look, it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see it.
All right, buys across the board for Ocean's 8 trail. We have a couple more trailers to talk about that dropped this morning. Sicario 2 Soldado had its first teaser trailer out. We get to see a whole lot of Benicio del Toro's Hitman, as well as Josh Brolin's somewhat kind of walking the line, a little scummy DA agent. So, Ashley, I'll go to you first.
God, did you have to throw me under the bus?
Soldado trailer.
I don't know. It's just like, we get it. Drugs, sand, terrorism. I don't know.
What is your issue? Not since Anakin Skywalker, somebody hated sand so much.
No, I just like, before we played the trailer, I was like, $10 says it starts with sand. What does it start with? Sand. It seemed entertaining. I guess this is what a trailer is supposed to do. It doesn't give you too much detail, but it wants to make you see the movie, which it did give me some energy. It was interesting, but I'm just like, I'm over this terrorism, drugs, sand premise.
I know you're upset about sand, and here's what I'll do for you. The next trailer we talk about has snow. Totally different than sand.
Perfect.
Before we get to that trailer, Perri, Soldado, I was a huge fan of this trailer. I got locked into it. It gave me that Sicario tone, even though Denis Villeneuve is not doing this, still written by Taylor Sheridan. I'm excited.
I am very excited as well. All I really wanted from my first glimpse at footage from this movie was to feel like it was going to be a sequel to the first one. And when you take someone like Villeneuve out of the equation and give someone else the job, I mean, really, is there anything more difficult than that to live up to the standards that he set? Especially when you don't have the entire team Villeneuve had around him. I think it's very important that Taylor Sheridan is back, and I think you get a sense of what he brings to that in this trailer, where, I mean, he's an incredibly talented writer across the board, but I'm glad he's one of the few carryovers here besides the cast. But really, when I was watching this, between the way it's shot, the story and what we see of it, and that score is just... It is so chilling and powerful. I really did feel like I was in an extension of what the first film started.
Yeah, I was disappointed when I heard the casting, the non-casting, I should say, of Emily Blunt's character in here. But Josh Brolin and Benicio del Toro, we're on our different story here, Schnepp, and I think it's something that's going to be pretty interesting.
Well, I go the opposite way. I was really glad Emily Blunt was not in this because her story concluded. Like with Sicario, it was over. And if she was in this movie, I would have actually been disappointed. I would have felt like it was more of a cash grab as opposed to a standalone movie. I'm like, look, that's her story is a one and done. And now that I've seen this trailer and seen just how dark and grim it's going to get, because Benicio del Toro's character is frightening in Sicario. So I was really happy to see that they're taking that and going a little bit farther. I haven't seen anything that this other director has done, because everything he's done is coming out next year or like at the end of this year on Netflix. It's like, come on, or it's like, it's, you know, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he's done just stylistically from the shots in this trailer have got me really excited. It looks very cinematic.
The only issue I have with this, and it's such a tiny issue, I don't even want to bring it up, but I have to because I'm totally honest. It's always transparency here at Movie Talk. They threw the Sicario 2 at you a little big. You know, just call it Soldado. Like it's Sicario 2 in huge letters. Like, we get it. It's a sequel to Sicario. Do you have to throw that in our face? Just give us this new. All right, I'll shut up. The next trailer is the Nutcracker and the Four Realms, a Disney movie that we just talked about a couple weeks ago. Has some reshoots planned with the new director Joe Johnston from Captain America: The First Avenger fame. We got to see our first footage of it this morning, unless you were like me and we're at what convention, Schnepp?
I think it was like M57.
M57. Yeah. The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. Going back to Ashley, a lot of snow.
I buy this. It kind of reminded me of if like Chronicles of Narnia, Hunger Games, and it kind of reminds me of like a culmination of a bunch of movies. But I like the way the trailer looks. When does this come out? Because it kind of reminds me of a movie that you'd see during Christmas time.
Christmas 2018.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the teaser dropped like, you know, during the Christmas season.
That's a little bit early.
Just to get us
like
a little
year
excited.
in advance.
Like, hey, we should do something with this next year.
I like it.
All right, no sand whatsoever in the Nutcracker. Yeah, the trailer's good. I do not care about the Nutcracker. Yeah. There's a whole lot of things about Christmas that I really enjoy and celebrate. The Nutcracker, it was just never one of them. It's a name you laugh at as a kid. You find out it's a ballet. The music's nice. I don't really care. I did find it funny that in the trailer it says, from Disney, the studio that brought you Beauty and the Beast. We know who gave us Beauty and the Beast. Nobody's watching Beauty and the Beast or The Jungle Book and being like, hey, is that Universal or is that Paramount? We know who Disney is. Thanks for reminding us once again. Again, I'm just getting very nitpicky, and I apologize. Schnepp, correct me.
These nuts are crackling, son. I can't wait to see the Nutcracker and those Four Realms.
If that's the tagline,
so
I will see this movie
These
opening
nuts
night.
are crackling.
That sounds like what Ashley would rap about.
And she was talking about these nuts earlier.
I reeled it back, but you took it there.
I'm
Deadpool's talking about these nuts too.
I know. Deadpool's on these nuts. I mean, I can't wait to see those crackling nuts. Look, I love the Nutcracker and all the nuts that he be cracking. And I can't wait to see him crack those nuts in the Fourth Realm. The trailer, though, it was really uneven. I mean, to me, I was like, okay, it definitely needs reshoots. Because I was like, everything, like, it goes from, like kind of badly lit scenarios and then to, like, this cool Fourth Realm stuff back to a play. And then back to the Fourth Realm, back to a play. I was like, maybe they don't have enough footage to put together a good trailer yet. That's what it felt like to me when I was watching it. I wanted to like it because it starts with the Nutcracker, you know, that music. And I was like, wow, you know, it's like instantly feel Christmassy when I hear that music. And look, I mean, when they have a full trailer, this can't even be a full trailer. There's like a half trailer, so half nuts.
It's a teaser. It's a little half. It's like when you get peanuts at a baseball game and you open up and there's the two slots, but there's only the one nut.
One
in
nut.
There.
Oh
It's like
my
what happened?
gosh.
The other
It's a
nut,
half nut.
the other nut fell out somewhere.
Yo, got half nutted.
Don't let your nuts fall out at baseball games, kids. That's a friendly tip from us here at Movie Talk. Perri, the Nutcracker, are you going to
boy.
crack these nuts and roast them on an open fire? Or are you going to drizzle them in caramel and call it a payday?
I think it's a half nut. I give them a little credit because stop that.
Everybody out there is making it dirty. We're just
Oh
talking
my
about
God.
the Nutcracker. That's all I know.
Perri just said she half nutted on it.
Yeah, it's a half nut. It's a half nut.
I was never really exposed. Wow, now this is going to get even more awkward. I didn't have all that
You were
much
never
Nutcracker
exposed
in
to
my
half
life
nuts.
when
Okay.
I was a kid. I was never taken to see the show or anything like that. So I don't care about these nuts.
man.
I just don't. I just think. Okay, wait. Just pulling it together really quickly. I will give them credit because when you take that kind of familiar music
my
like
God.
that and you kind of ramp it up a little bit and you back it to these kinds of visuals, there is no better time of year to release it than ahead of movies during Christmas because that will get people in the holiday mood and that will put this movie on their radar for next Christmas.
And November 2nd, 2018 is when it comes out. I'm just happy to share the stage with three of my favorite nut jobs. Before we move on to mailbag, we're going to remind you guys at the end of the show, we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. Go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video. Make the comments as nutty as you care to make them. And we also have the movie trivia Schmodown, our WrestleMania event. It's the Super Bowl, the Schmodown, and it airs this Friday, December 22nd. The Schmodown Spectacular Part 2. Throw a clip. It is going to be wild, untamed entropy this Friday. I think you have 4 championship matches, if I'm not mistaken. Then you also have a couple other matches that are going to be a whole lot of fun thrown in there. I am lucky enough to be in town and announcing each and every one of them. Christian Harloff has a whole lot of responsibilities this week, not only helping us to set up these Schmodown Spectacular, but then also competing in the championship event against Sam Levine. Sam Levine has a full card as well that day, so it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Make sure you guys tune in December 22nd to the Schmodown Spectacular. We also have our top 50 superhero movies of all time. The list, it keeps getting narrow and narrow. We are counting down to the number 1 superhero movie of all time. And on the subject of superhero movies, we had an episode air yesterday and one will air on Wednesday as well. That show I'm talking about is Collider Heroes, hosted by the nuttiest of them all, the sweatiest of the sweaties, Mr. Jon Schnepp. What are you guys going to be yapping about tomorrow? You got any good stories?
Yeah, Feige just talked about the first 5 minutes of Avengers Infinity Gauntlet. There's a whole bunch of new stories that just have been popping off. We're definitely all going to weigh in on Matthew Vaughn entering the DC universe, stuff like that.
Rock on. Remember, I suggested Booster Gold before anybody else.
Oh, I remember.
I was the 17th person in line. We're going to move on to mailbag. You guys can email us anytime. collidervideo@gmail.com is the red flag up today.
John J writes, "Hey Collider crew, it's John J, pronounced John J from Illinois.
Thank you, John J.
Thanks for helping me stay updated on all things movie news. Keep up the great work. With the holiday season quickly approaching, I'd love to know what is on your cinematic wish list. What are some items that the cinephile in you would love for the holidays? Is it a gift card to the theater, a movie pass subscription, an awesome movie poster? Let me know. All the best, John J."
I'm so happy that you and I are close friends, John J, because I will come to Illinois for any of those gifts that you're doling out. I always appreciate a good gift card to a movie theater, a movie pass. Might actually supersede that this year because a movie pass I think you can use for any movie regardless of sometimes if you just have a gift card to a theater you can only see movies like in the 3rd week of release or something like that, but a movie poster is pretty sweet as well. My favorite movie gift that I ever received is something that I worked hard for, I earned it, and it was provided to me by the movie theater itself. Is that in 1993 a little movie, an Oscar-winning film called Hard Target starring Jean-Claude Van Damme came out, and they had a huge monstrously sized banner in the lobby, and I asked them every day, hey, is anybody going to have that banner, or what do you guys do with that banner? When they took the banner down finally after the 2nd week of its release, they gave me the banner. So I got the Hard Target banner. I still have it at my place, much to my mother's chagrin. I love that Hard Target banner. It's one of my favorite movie items. Perri Nemiroff, what's a good gift this holiday season for the cinephile?
I've actually gotten this for 2 people this year already, and it's an Alamo Drafthouse gift certificate because it's more than just giving them a gift card to go get a movie ticket. It's the whole Alamo experience. And then if you give them that gift card, you need to say you use that gift card for movie tickets, but you're not allowed to see that movie unless you enjoy it with a milkshake, because those milkshakes are really damn good.
At the Alamo Drafthouse, good milkshakes?
So good.
You need to get the right type of milkshake, but yes.
Where is this?
They have them. They have. I think
Austin,
they're opening
Texas.
one in somewhere in like Venice or somewhere like there, or like Del Mar in Southern California. They have them all over Texas as well. The Alamo Drafthouse. They're famous for having a great movie theater experience, but also they do not suffer fools. So if you're talking, your cell phone goes off, you're out, and they will make fun of you afterwards. It's a whole lot of fun going there. They also have a lot of great beers on draft. So be good for all of us here at the table. Jon Schnepp.
Yeah, Alamo Drafthouse is great. Yeah, they have like this little bar, and then at first it took me a minute to get used to it because like waiters and waitresses are kind of coming and can I help you while you're watching a movie? I'm like, you know, it's like jarring at first, but then when you kind of get into like, all right, I will be interrupted occasionally for this delicious, tasty beverage. Like I had some beers, then I had a milkshake, then I had some fries, then I had some more beers.
Is that how you'd recommend that? Food
yes
is you
beer
open up with beers, then a milkshake, then French fries, then back to beers.
Yeah, pizza.
No, you need to get
good.
the pizza and the cookie sampler.
I don't know about the cookie sampler. I'm talking the beer, pizza,
Schnepp.
beer, milkshake, beer, pizza. So you know something like that.
I never made it past the beer menu at Alamo Drafthouse, so it appears I have to do more research. Ashley Mova, of all of the gifts that you could give to this cinephile in your life, what are you giving?
Well, now I want to pass to that place. I've never heard of that place before, but the way you guys are describing it, it sounds like heaven on earth.
Move to Texas, go Spurs, go.
Oh, God, don't even go there.
Congratulations on your boy getting his 2 numbers retired last night.
Oh, thank you. It was such a touching speech. Anyways, everyone needs a movie pass, and I'm not even just saying that. This is not sponsored at all. I'm obsessed with movie pass now that I have it. Oh my gosh, amazing. But I'll also take a real life porg.
Somebody got a porg in my family, and it was my 3-year-old niece. I provided her with a porg because we did Christmas early because I was up in Seattle. And the look on her face when she received the porg, it warmed my heart. And then she gave me her gift for Christmas, and it was Balatique from The Force Awakens.
Wow.
I finally own an actual Balatique. I finally own the toy of me because she thinks it's Uncle Mark.
Was the porg cooked or not cooked?
It was pre-cooked. It was pre-cooked. I believe they're roasting it for Christmas.
Right.
dinner.
That's the way you serve up porgs. You have to
guys
like
are evil.
pre-cook them.
That's right. Yeah, it's the roast beast that the Grinch carved on Christmas.
I would say movie pass, any kind of movie tickets. That's a great gift.
Yeah,
for people.
Or
who
just
love
sit
movies.
around the fire, talk about movies, and roast some chestnuts on an open fire. Let's go to Twitter. We'll do one Twitter question, and we will call it a
my
day.
gosh.
What is up in Twitter?
Albert Rodharma writes, what movie would you like to see a behind-the-scenes look at, a la The Disaster Artist?
Oh, that's good. So if we're taking an actual film, like if you're looking at The Disaster Artist, which was a movie made about the making of a movie, but it was also like its own movie. So this is not documentary style. Right. Well, like, because the Jaws documentary is great. It's almost as good as the movie itself, learning how the movie was made. I would actually like to see a Jaws movie like that. There's a whole lot of movies, but I think I'd actually like to see if it's going to be like kind of like a screwball comedy and like how crazy the Hollywood system and how ridiculous it can be at times. I would go with Ishtar. It might be the biggest bomb in the history of bombs. The movie did not pan out well. Warren Beatty, Dustin Hoffman in it, and it just cost the studio so much money. There's so many backlogs on production. One of the reasons why, because they filmed it in sandstorms. I would go with an Ishtar movie. How about you, Schnepp?
I would go Apocalypse Now. I mean, they have an incredible Hearts of Darkness documentary about the making of the film. I would love to see that kind of like turned like The Disaster Artist, like watching Francis Ford Coppola slowly lose his mind while watching Dennis Hopper on all kinds of crazy drugs, Charlie Sheen's, Martin Sheen having a heart attack. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff happening. I mean, I think, you know, that would be fantastic.
As you said, Apocalypse Now. Xenowire in the chat room chimed in with Apocalypse Now. I set the bar way down here with Ishtar. Apocalypse Now raised it substantially. Perri Nemiroff, can you top our Apocalypse Now movie?
I can't, because I'm going back and forth, because the special thing about The Disaster Artist is it's about this crazy production, but there's like this really nice, poignant silver lining to it where it celebrates just the love of cinema and the passion those guys put into it. So mine is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and it's something I've repeated before, because ever since since this movie came out, I keep saying I want a tell-all book because I genuinely want to know what really happened, and I also want to learn, especially in the modern times when we have huge franchises. Fantastic Four. I want everybody's side of the story, especially because we spent so long writing and talking about all that nonsense that went on that production. I want the real story, and I feel like it's only a matter of time before we get some sort of behind-the-scenes documentary about modern superhero movie making.
That's a really good point. I mean, like, I know a good, serious half of it from one side, and it is fantastic. I mean, it literally is, like, jaw-dropping when you hear all the things that happened over the course of that production, all the way up to the release of the film. It's like, it's way better than the film that was released. So, I mean, that's a great call, Perri.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that, too. That might be better than Ishtar as well. Ashley, do you have something, do you have a movie that was produced that you want to see the production of it in cinematic form?
You guys kind of took the serious route, but in a more comedic tone, I guess you could say, is Sausage Party, because when I watched it, it kind of reminded me of a Family Guy episode in the sense of, like, I kept thinking, how did they think of this? Like, what did they do? Did they sit in a room thinking, okay, you guys, we're going to have a bagel, and it's symbolically going to represent Israel, and then we're going to have the lavash bread, and it's going to represent Palestine, and we're going to work with that conflict. How did they come up with these amazing